We're talking a New York Giants win on today's Locked On Giants podcast. David Turner joins us coming up next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. Patricia Traina here with you, and I am joined as always by David Turner, former NFL scout, former personnel guy. He's been breaking down the Giant games with me all season long, as well as some other stuff in the off season. Really knows his stuff. Glad to have him with us. And we have, that's right, folks, sit down. We have a win, 23-16 over the Las Vegas Raiders. The Giants go into their bye week on a high note. And David, let's start there. I mean, what does this do for a team that, basically was coming off kind of a funky type of week last week between the COVID false positives and just, not knowing who they were going to have and all this stuff. So what does this do for the team morale?
Well, I think it's obviously sending them into the bye week on a high. I mean, they started the season 0-3, and now they won 3 in a row. So they're 3, now they won 3 in a row. So they got the 3 wins under their belts. But I think like you said last week, a lot of false positives, a lot of didn't know who was going to play, who was going to get activated. I mean, people were really just kind of. I know the building was sitting on pins and needles for most of the week, so. It was a stressful week. Now they can kind of chill a little bit, go into the bye week, get healthy. I think there's some players today that showed up a little bit that returned from being injured, and we'll talk about them. And I think there's some positive stuff. They're going to have some challenges right out the gate, obviously, but there's some positive stuff to talk about over the last 3 weeks, and we'll get to it.
Definitely. Now, we talked a little bit. You and I actually were texting in the beginning of the game how Jason Garrett's opening drive was just wonderful. I mean, I think we could both agree on it. And then it took kind of a downhill turn. I mean, were you kind of surprised that they didn't get the receivers involved until like literally later in the game?
I was excited. Like, what have I been telling you? Like for the last 3 weeks, it was like, get the damn tight ends the ball. So, and using them and using the running backs out of the backfield. I love what he was doing there for sure. Where I fell short was on, the second drive, where I just felt his game plan kind of fell apart a little bit. And, he had to go off script, and that's where Jason tends to be struggling this year, is when that adversity hits. And then, you can't just go and do what he's used to doing. And when they got into penalties, I mean, the game plan just kind of fell apart a lot. As soon as there was a penalty, it just seemed like they didn't know what they were doing. But I'm not trying to be negative. I'll try to keep it positive as much as I can. But for me, I really was excited to see the tight ends being used, Rudolph and even Ingram. I mean, that pass that Daniel Jones threw to Ingram for the touchdown was an absolute laser. And it was a situation where, I mean, that's throwing them open, because that was good coverage. Okay. That Raiders defender had his hand right there. I mean, and it was just, I was amazed he threw the ball, and that, Ingram caught that one, because that was really good coverage. So that was Daniel throwing him open and trusting his receiver right there, which tells a lot about, how he feels about Ingram. So, that was a great throw. And to see Rudolph getting balls and stuff today, I was excited. Like, that to me is what the Giants offense needs to look more like. Did we get a full-fledged account of it? No, but Golladay got involved, made some really good catches. I think 2 on third down, moved the ball, moved the chains. If this team's healthy, they got talent, as we've been saying, and we saw some of it come into fruition today.
Yeah, definitely. And, let's talk about the offensive line, because I thought the offensive line, for the most part, did a pretty good job, especially run blocking.
Oh, yes. I mean, big holes today. Booker wasn't getting touched behind the line. There wasn't a lot of penetration. there was a couple runs where he got stuffed at the line, but again, they weren't allowing penetration. The defensive line was not changing the line of scrimmage on them too often. It was them really dictating the run game. I liked it a lot. I liked what I saw. I wish they ran the ball even more, being honest with you. But once Booker went down, I think Penny did his best, came into the game, did his best. But one of the benefits of having a guy like Booker, he can catch the ball in the backfield. So it keeps the defensive guessing a little bit between run and pass and what's he going to do. And he's a good pass blocker too. So again, all in all, I thought the first drive was really solid. I thought when they got in the red zone a little bit, that red zone offense has to get better. It just has to get better because they are not scoring touchdowns every time in the red zone. And I know everybody's like, it's the NFL, you can't score with them. But that number has to be up in the 70% to 80 percentile, and I know it's not there. So for me, I would love for them to get better at that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the Giants also, the run game. Let's talk about that run game. No Saquon Barkley. Just looking at the stats here, 149 yards on the ground, 31 times, 4.8 average. Devonta Booker with a huge day. Now, it's interesting. We were talking about this, excuse me, in the press box. We were talking about, do they need Saquon Barkley? Do they need to sign this guy to a big time deal, especially given the injury issues? I mean, we just see sometimes without him in the lineup, they can still run the ball and do what they need to do. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I know Barkley's a special talent, but I know me personally, I'm not so sure I would sign him to a mega deal.
Well, if he's looking to, sorry, got a little love there. if he's looking to get a big time money deal, then no, because he's not been durable enough. And you can't make the big cashish unless you're on the field earning the big cashish. So, if he has more of a realistic number in mind, I mean, he's a different guy when he's on the field. He's really a special dude. So I would love to keep him around and keep him in the big blue uniform and everything. But again, if he's coming out and he's like, I need to be the top running back paid in the league, well, have fun in the market, kid. Go try to find someone that's going to invest that in you when you've been hurt over the last 3 seasons. You missed 2 complete seasons, right? And then this year he only played the first 3 games or 4 games, and then he's been out. So, it's just not a situation where you can overinvest even in a talented player like he is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see, they talked about, that John Mara has said he'd like to see him a Giant for life, but, they said the same thing about Odell Beckham Jr. We all know what happened there. So, obviously not the same scenario, Barkley is not the type of personality that Odell is, but I'm very curious to see. They don't have to make that decision probably for another year at least, but you just see, last year with Wayne Gallman able to carry the running game, the combination, the committee seems to work best. I mean, you've done personnel. I mean, is that how it's trending now, where you don't necessarily need that bell cow, or is it just a luxury to have it?
No, I get away from that, because you see teams that do have bell cows, they might have a solid second. But when you have a bell cow, your offense is different. You really are. The Tennessee Titans, I mean, they're playing tonight without their bell cow, and they're up. What are they up? 14-3 on the Rams. But here's the deal: when they have Henry in, that's a special offense. That's a difference maker, right? That's a guy that you have to account for every play. With Saquon, if you have him in there, that's a different offense. We've talked about that. The Giants offense has some nitrous now. It's because he can catch the ball. His acceleration is different, everything. So, again, I just think he's a different player when he's playing. And if you have a bell cow, but you need a solid second. So again, if you can find a 1-2 punch like they have over in Cleveland with Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that's the kind of backfield you would hope to have. And you do have that when you have Saquon and Booker, right? When you got the two of them in the backfield together, you do have a nice 1-2 punch. Even look at the Cowboys when they got Pollard now with Ezekiel Elliott. So when you have those two back combinations like that, I think that's what this league is coming to, be honest with you.
All right, Giant fans, we got more coming up on today's show. But first, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment that you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings you your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part is there's no annual contract. So that's right. Stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. All right, now let's talk about the Giants defense. Now, the Raiders had, I believe, over 400 yards total, but the Giants rose to the occasion in this game when needed. So what did you like about what Patricia did, and what made the difference, do you think?
I like the way you phrased that, when needed.
It's true. Am I saying anything that's not accurate?
No, I just like the way you worded that. Your wordsmithing there was beautiful. With 5 minutes left into the third quarter, the Giants only had like 30 snaps on the day. So the Raiders held the ball for a lot, and I talk about that all the time, right? I don't like that they let their opposing offense do 14-play drives, 11-play drives. I hate that. Now they get into the red zone and they didn't give up points. They got turnovers and pick six today. That stuff was great. I think the Raiders' game plan was poor. And I also think their execution was poor because they focus on getting the ball to Edwards. I think he was targeted 7 times, and I don't think he had a catch all day. Renfro and Waller didn't get catches until late, and that was a mistake by the Raiders. I thought they should have utilized him more. But again, the Giants were double covering Waller, and they were kind of leaving Edwards open, knowing that they was going to be a mistake, and they let him open. But I think Graham, again, went into the lab, figured a way to win, did a great job. I don't like the bend, don't break attitude. That's just not me. But I also like what our front did today. I mean, our front were active. They were putting pressure on Carr. They were getting him off his spot. They were closing, the run game for the Raiders came out strong. Look at them in the first half. I mean, they had a good first half running the ball. Second half, not so much. I mean, they gave up some creases, but it shored up a lot in the second half. We did not give up as many yards in the second half as we did the first. So that was some good in-game adjustments there for them.
Now let's talk about a couple of young players who really stood out. We got to start with Xavier Mckinney, a guy who, you could kind of see at the start of the season how he was starting to siphon some of the snaps away from Jabril Peppers before he got injured. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that come next year, Peppers is not going to be re-signed, and McKinney's going to be that guy, for the foreseeable future. But what was the big difference with him? I mean, you look at those 2 interceptions. Was it just a bad throw by Carr, or just a good read, or a combination of the two?
I think they were good reads. I mean, I think Carr, was it the pick 6? I think Carr was forcing it, right? But the other interception I thought was a good read and a good break, good ball skills, tracked the ball really well and watched it all the way into his hands, and was able to get upfield with it. So, for me, the young player seemed to have a good anticipation today, a good understanding of the game plan. He understood the offense down and distance well. I mean, did he have the 2 picks? Yes, but he had a good game otherwise too. I mean, you didn't see him getting beat. You didn't see him getting exposed. I mean, he really did, I thought, a real nice, solid job today. And he's getting a feel for that defense. I think he's becoming more comfortable in his role in that defense. And that's what we're seeing a little bit today. And hopefully the rest of the season, we continue to see that.
And another young player who stepped in was Quincy Rochet. Now, he's a guy who's been getting snaps here and there. Last week, he started to see more snaps. This week, he was elevated to the starting lineup. They put down O'Shane Zimenez, who I got to admit, I had hopes for him, but he's been disappointing. But Rochet, boy, he stepped in, and I thought he was very active, came up with that big strip sack that basically ended the Raiders' comeback attempt. What did you like, or what did you see from him?
Well, Roche was one of my heartthrobs from the draft. I mean, he was a guy that, when he came out, I really liked him and I was all over him, and people were like, "You're crazy," blah, 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 blah. But I really like this kid. I think he can bend the corner quick. I really think he has good anticipation with blocks and what's going to come at him. I think he studies film. When you watch his hand placement and how he rushes, he has a plan. He's got an idea what to do. He's not just a guy coming off doing the same thing every time. So I think he's got a chance to be a really skilled pass rusher. And when you got him and the other young buck on the other side together, that could give, with Williams and Carter and everybody else they got up front, that could be really something fun to watch. If not, what I saw out of Roche today, again, was a lot of what I saw from the draft, and it's translating. A lot of guys, when they translate up and the skill level goes up, they get swallowed up and the game gets too big for him. But with Roche, I think he's just starting to, he's starting to figure it out. He's gonna take him a little bit, but he's starting to put it together. And I'll bet you this: the last 6 games of the season, Roche's got a chance to be a beast.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see that. I mean, I like what I've seen from him. I like what I've seen from Ojulari. And excuse me, we know that Carter is going to be a free agent. He's kind of been quiet. Zimenez, like I said, he's been kind of quiet. They activated Ellerson Smith for this game. I don't know how many snaps he got into. I don't recall seeing him where he stood out, but certainly, some promising pass rushing talent for a unit that I think at the beginning of the year we had question marks about.
Absolutely. I think this young, talented pass rushing situation that they got right now is one in which is going to be fun to watch develop.
Right now, sticking with the defense, again, they did give up a good chunk of yardage to the Raiders. What continues to be the problem? What continues to hold them back? I would say, like whether it be a position group or a particular player or an absence of a player, what's holding this group back?
Yeah, that's a good. For me, I just don't like. I think it's a lack of aggression. I want to see more blitzes. I want to see them bringing more stunts. That's me. I want to see more zero coverage, get up in their face, press man, and figure it out. At the line of scrimmage. That's not what. That's just this bend don't break defense and let them get down into the 30 plus and then try to stop them there. It's just not my thing. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I wish they would stop it, as I've been saying for weeks. It worked today. But again, the Raiders aren't, the foremost, prolific offense. I know Derek Carr's having a really good year, but, again, without Ruggs now on their team, that takes a very speedy receiver off the field and their stretch receiver off the field. So I don't know how that's going to wind up affecting this offense and productivity the rest of the year, because Ruggs was the stretch the field guy that could take the top off. And without him, I think like what you saw with the Giants today, they weren't really worried downfield. They covered underneath and, sat on routes, and that really limited Carr's options.
What do you think about this plan that they put in place? I guess it happened last week against the Chiefs organically, or maybe it was done purposely. I don't know, but having Bradbury cover the tight end. What do you think of that?
Well, Bradbury's just covering the best receiver on third down. So that's what I mean. That they know they want to go to Kelsey, so they put Bradbury on him. Then this week they know they want to go to Waller, so they're just like, no, we're just going to stick Bradbury on him. We're just taking away number one option with our number one guy, because then we can by manning that guy up, we can bracket number 2, and then it still leaves us an extra defender to cover over top on 3. So therefore, by taking number one away by a single coverage. And our best coverage guy is Bradbury, and he's big enough and long enough to cover these tall tight ends. That's why he's so valuable, because he can do stuff like that.
Indeed. And plus he's been playing better with some of those new responsibilities.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not as fast. So it plays into Bradbury's plan right there. So, I'm not saying he's slow. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Bradbury's slow, but I'm saying, like, when you're covering these tight ends, they're not the 4-3 guys that you got to worry about running away from you, Right. So that's a little different ball game there. And Bradbury's a big dude. So, he can play with those big boys.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, I don't think he'll be able to do it where they got Tampa Bay coming out of the break, right?
Right.
So, they're not going to be able to put him on Gronk and take Gronk away, because that'll expose with Godwin and AB and stuff. So they're going to, that's an offense that's hitting on a lot of cylinders right now.
Hey, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's show. But first, have you checked out Built Bar? Available in 9 amazing flavors, plus a rotating selection of limited time offerings in nut and nut-free variety. Built Bar is the perfect choice for a low-carb, low-sugar, and high-protein treat that will satisfy your sweet tooth. Visit BuiltBar.com today and get 15% off your first order with our promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 at BuiltBar.com for 15% off your first order. All right, Giant fans, still more to come on today's show. But first, did you know BetOnline is back and better than ever before, offering a new web interface for the start of basketball season and more props, odds, lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to their updated desktop or mobile website to sign in today. And when you sign up for a new account and use our special promo code Locked On, you will get a 50% welcome bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers that are available. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, they're going into the bye week. Still a lot of stuff they have to fix up, clean up. If you had to make a priority list of things for them to work on during the bye, what would you prioritize?
I'm still about going into the lab and figuring out this offense. I like where it's going. Okay, I see more of this 12 personnel. So I think 13 a couple times today. I like where they're going with that. They're using the tight ends in the pass game and in pass blocking. So that's stuff that I get excited about. Booker's health is going to be very important during this break, because if Saquon can't come back and Booker's hurt, that's going to be an issue. Now, there were reports that if Saquon didn't have his false positive this week, that he could have possibly played. Just, they need to get him on the field and practice him. But again, that ankle injury looked really, really gnarly. So, that's just something I'm watching out for. The running back health is something we really, hopefully out of the break, will be healthier there, as well as the health of the left tackle, because Pear has been super. The cream pie has been, cream puffs has been super serviceable, but again, he's not the left tackle of the future. And also, I'm curious if you've heard anything about that young Tennessee Titan offensive lineman that they have on the practice squad.
Yeah,
where's he at? Because if they can get him at right tackle and get the left tackle back, that offensive line is going to be really interesting.
I think that might be the plan down the line. I mean, you say, I know you've been down on Parrott. I don't think he's been that bad. I don't think he was that horrible today. I mean, there were a couple of times that you cringed and whatnot. But to answer your question about Wilson, I think they were trying to get him up to speed, get his strength back, because remember, he hadn't played football in quite some time. So I think this year he's a project, and they're going to maybe look to really get him in the mix next year. I'd be surprised if we see him this year. I also want to go back to something you said about Saquon. Saquon was not going to play this week, regardless. I mean, on Monday night during the broadcast, I don't know. I happened to make a note of this. The sideline reporter Lisa Salters had said she had spoken, I guess, with Saquon, and he was still talking about how his ankle there was still some swelling in there. So I did not think Saquon, regardless of what happened with the COVID tests and all that, I didn't think he was going to play this week. Now, here's the other thing, while we're on that topic, he had supposedly a low ankle sprain. This has taken an awful long time for him to heal up. I mean, he only missed 3 games with a high ankle sprain. Is this unusual? I mean, I know you're not a doctor, but you've seen injuries to guys. And I'm just wondering if, a low ankle sprain taking that long.
Well, you're talking to a man who had major ankle surgery this last year. So, I know for me, it's a tough situation. It really is, because when you're on an ankle sprain at all in any kind, it's a tough one, because you got to cut on it. You got to, be able to support all your weight. It's a small, like my ankle surgery surgeon said, it's a very small area where there's not a lot of blood flow, and swelling has to go through your lymph nodes to get through. And the closest lymph node to your ankle is in your hip. So that's why you have to sit and you have to elevate and let it drain down your leg to get there. But it's so far away from your heart that it's an area that doesn't get a lot of blood flow, which helps in healing too. So ankle injuries, just depending on the person, it's difficult to anticipate and go with how long typically something would take. Ankles and feet are really not interesting, but hard to predict on how people are going to recover from ankles and feet injuries. It's easier with shoulders and elbows and things that are a little higher up, because we've just seen the healing process. But ankles, it's just different. And a guy like Saquon, who's explosive and definitely wants to be able to cut and do all his things when he's on the field, that's a situation where you want him 100%. You don't want to just throw him back out there, because then that'll nag him. And again, this was game 7 for them today, I believe.
The Giants, it was game 9.
Oh, was it game 9?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Here I go. So game 9, well, they still have 8 games to go, right? So they're sitting at 3-5 with 8 games to go. So they got a shot at having a winning season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can make it work. And they don't want Saquon to be, nursing it all year. So giving him a little extra time is smart, and making sure he's 100%, because, again, they're not in a division that's running away from them too much. Look at what happened to Dallas today. They got offered by, the Denver Broncos. It was 30-0 or something like that. I don't know. It was at one point.
Well, they got a couple garbage time touchdowns, but
Yeah.
Denver did own them today.
Yeah, it was 30-0 and 4 when I turned it off. So, but as I say, it's like, it's not a division that's running away from them. So, can they catch them? It'll be difficult. I'm not sitting here trying to pump them up, but if they get healthy, they have a really good deep offensive skill positions, and therefore they can make a run here late.
Yeah. And, you mentioned, with ankles, I sprained mine I had I think it was a grade 1 low ankle sprain in April. And to this day, here we are, we're more than 6 months out. It took me a long time to kind of get the ankle feeling right. And even now, sometimes it's like, if I don't move it, I can feel it stiffen up. And it was just the weirdest thing. So, but I just thought it was, unusual. The reason why I brought it up is because they say usually for an athlete, a high ankle sprain takes longer, and a lower ankle sprain, because I guess of the treatment that they get, they can get back quicker. So that's why I was just wondering about the timing involved. And if maybe, I don't know, the information that was put out, I mean, who knows? Sometimes they they say something, they try to be as generic as possible. But, the important thing is I think we'll see Saquon after the break. I would be stunned if he's not back on the field for the Tampa Bay game. And if he's not on the field by then something's really, really up with that injury, because then you're talking, he was injured, in week 5. So this would bring us to week 11. You're talking something significant there that, I would be concerned about. But let me get back to getting back into the lab and what this team has to do. You mentioned some of the things that you would do. What about from the coaching perspective? We were talking about this in the press box today, actually, about how the coaching has kind of regressed a little bit. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but in particular, game management, decisions, the use of timeouts, when they use them, whether to go for it, whether to be aggressive and stuff like that. What's the process like for a coaching staff when they self-scout themselves and, determine, okay, you know what, maybe we could have done a few things better? And how does that just all work? And where do you see this coaching staff really needing to pick it up in the second half, if you will?
You want me to repeat last week? You just like to get me in trouble. You're a troublemaker. You just like to get me in trouble. You just totally get me in trouble. So
I do not. Come on.
So where they need to get better is play calling, getting when there's a penalty or when there's a hiccup, some adversity, they need to get better at that. Because like I said today, even Jason's first drive was perfect. Running the ball, O-line was opening holes. As long as they didn't have a penalty, Jason knew what to do. It was a good game plan. And he got the receivers involved after the tight ends, which I thought was great, because then people started worrying about the tight ends, worrying about the run game. The play action pass started opening up for Daniel Jones. So that is perfect. That's what you do. As soon as there's a holding call, we're running a draw play, or we're throwing a screen, or we're doing. It's man, just you got some horses out there, and Tony and Galladay was playing today. It's go throw a vertical route. Let's go. Get them inside the hash marks or inside the numbers, between the numbers, and throw a vertical route. Run some crossers, do a scissors or something, and let's go. I don't understand why he didn't open that up a little bit more today with those guys that he does have playing. And then, for me, I like the 12 personnel look. I like the way they ran out of it today. I think they need to stay with that. Even when Saquon's in there, to stay with the 12 personnel look, utilize those tight ends like I've been saying for weeks. Rudolph needs more touches. I mean, I love the way they went to him today, but I thought they could have targeted him more. For me, now it's time to get Galladay rolling. Him and Tony need to be rolling. I don't care. Tony's special, and he didn't have hardly any touches today. That kid, we saw what he could do a few weeks ago when he was targeted a bunch. You get the ball in that man's hand and boom, but they're letting him throw the ball more than they are trying to freaking, throw the ball to him. And I'm tired of the gadget plays. You want to know one thing I'm tired of? The gadget plays. Can we take those and park them on the sideline?
They wasted one too. They wasted one on, I think it was a long yardage situation.
It's dude, can we just run the ball and throw the ball? Why do we have to do all these double reverse passes to the quarterback and let the receivers throw the ball? Man, we got one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Just let them drop back and throw it, please. I'm just over that. That's me. I'm done with the gadget plays and the quarterback runs. You got all these receivers, you got all these tight ends. Line it up and let's go. Now on defense, again, press, get into zero. When it gets to be play 6, 7, and 8, I would love to see it be aggressive on the drive. I'm tired of the 11, 14 play drives and settle for a field goal. And as long as they're kicking field goals, we'll have a better chance to win. I hate that philosophy. It's not me. It's not how I do things. So that I'm over. And then on special teams, we had our 12th special team penalty today. 12 in 9 games, and your head coach is the special teams guy. You got to get the discipline better. Those kind of penalties that we've seen this year on special teams and throughout, a lot of it's discipline, and the players aren't showing discipline. So that's coaching. You got to get on them. You got to make them be more disciplined and know their assignments and know how to execute their assignments.
Definitely. Now, I know this is like kind of hard to predict, and I'm just going to pull up the schedule right here. But the Giants coming off this
You hear?
win,
She's about to put me on the spot. You hear?
I'm going to put
I
you
know
on the
this is
spot.
hard to predict, but guess what? You're about to predict something.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, I'll predict too. But Tampa Bay, Philadelphia twice, Miami, Chargers, Dallas, Chicago, Washington. If you had to take a guess, how many winnable games would you say are in that batch there?
Out of 8, 7, maybe 6.
Okay.
6 or 7.
Which two are you not feeling?
Tampa Bay
In Dallas?
and Dallas.
Okay, I'm wondering. I've got questions about the Chargers, and I don't know that they're going to beat Philly twice. They just haven't done it, I think, in a while.
Well, you asked me if could they beat Philly twice? Yes. Can they beat
Could they?
Washington?
Yes.
Yes, that's 3, right?
Yeah.
And then you said they have Miami.
Miami.
That's
They
4.
have the Chargers.
Chargers is going to be a hard game for sure.
They have the Bears. And then
Bears
they
is a
close out with
winnable game.
Washington.
Yeah, but that's to say, like, the Bears definitely winnable game. Philly winnable game. Miami winnable game. Washington winnable game. Right. So there's 3 games on there that are going to be tough battles: Tampa Bay, Dallas, and Chargers.
Yeah.
Now, but there's one of those they can win. Like whether it's the Dallas game, because we saw again what happened to Dallas today, or if it's and Tampa Bay has been, shut down twice this year. Now, I don't know if the Giants have it in them, but they're hitting them right at the right time coming out of the bye week. If they're going to take a shot, then they got 2 weeks to prepare for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, you got the Chargers who, again, today they looked human. So, the Chargers the first 5 weeks of the season didn't look human. They were rolling. But ever since they played New England, people seem to start figuring out that cover 2 is messing up the quarterback. And a lot of people are throwing that at him now. And that's exactly what we play. So, again, it kind of fits what we like to do on defense to play him. So I think, again, you can win 6 of the last 8, which would put you at 9. What was that? Well, that would be 9 and
They're
9 and 7.
What are they now? They're 3 and 6 now, right? They're 3 and 6, I believe, right now.
So that'd put you at 9 and 8. If you do that, if you win 6 of the last games or 7 of the last, 6 of the last 8, you get to 9 and 7 or 9 and 8. Sorry, 9 and 8. I keep thinking 7 because I'm trained to think 16 games. I'm trained to think 16.
I do the same thing, so don't sweat it. But
so
I'll tell you what,
if you got a winning season.
Yeah, I was going to say if they can get to 9 and 7, I'd take that. I would definitely take that.
If they get to 9 and 8 and they got a winning season and they might finish second in the division. I know, I got you. But they might finish second in the division, or they might get there because Dallas, if Dallas sputters and putters down the line, they can get there. I'm not fearing Washington, and I'm not fearing Philly. Philly's got a good little team. They played hard today. The team is playing hard. Don't get me wrong. Hurst is a good little quarterback. He runs around, gets out of trouble. They're playing hard, but I think the Giants have a team that can beat Philly twice. They can beat Washington, and they can give Dallas a hell of a game if they don't beat them. They got, especially if they're healthy, they got a team that can do it. And that defense today with Rochet and Ojulari and Leonard Williams and Carter. Like, they got some horses up front to put the pressure on, and if you can shut the run game down, that'll help. That's going to be the Achilles heel, though, is if they got to learn to shut the run down, because if they don't shut that run down, that's going to, we saw it hurt them in other games, and that will hurt them again.
Hopefully brighter skies ahead. I mean, it's nice to actually go into the bye week with a win. My timeline appreciates it. I know I appreciate it, because I'm telling you, after a loss, people are so despondent, and I get it. I mean, look, I get depressed after it too, because it's just, I've been doing it for so long. It's like a win is nice every once in a while. But like you said, we go into the bye week on an upbeat note. So folks, that's going to do it for today's show. Just a reminder, we'll do our Twitter mailbag on Thursday, since there will be no crossover show this week. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. David, as always, thank you. I will talk to you later in the week. And Giant fans, have a good one.